Have you ever wondered what is truly happening behind their eyes when the doors are locked and the lights go down? You believe you are sharing a deeply profound moment of human connection, completely unaware that you are actually stepping into a highly calculated psychological laboratory. The truth about what they are really looking for will absolutely chill your blood. Intimacy requires profound vulnerability, a willing surrender of your heaviest emotional armor. But for the pathological narcissist, this sacred vulnerability is nothing more than a tactical advantage. They do not experience closeness, they experience an opportunity for covert data extraction. While your eyes are closed in trust, their eyes are wide open, scanning for your deepest flaws. Society conditions us to believe that physical closeness automatically equals emotional intimacy. We are fed the devastating lie that shared passion can somehow melt a frozen heart. But the predator does not magically transform into a protector just because you share a bed. In those quiet, unguarded moments, their dark, predatory nature is actually operating at its absolute peak efficiency. You assumed they were noticing your beauty, your affection, or the pure love radiating from your soul. You thought the heavy gaze they gave you was filled with genuine admiration. But that intense stare was never about adoration. It was an active appraisal of your immediate psychological utility. They are constantly measuring exactly how much supply they can successfully extract from you. The most terrifying aspect of narcissistic intimacy is the sheer, mechanical coldness hidden beneath the passionate performance. They mirror your desires flawlessly, creating a highly addictive illusion of the perfect soulmate. But behind that carefully constructed mask, a relentless, silent calculation is always running. They are not feeling the moment, they are directing a sinister play. What they are actually noticing are your subtle micro-expressions, your hidden insecurities, and the exact boundaries you are willing to compromise. They study your reactions like a predator analyzing the subtle movements of prey. Every sigh, every word whispered in trust, is immediately catalogued in their dark mental filing cabinet to be violently weaponized against you at a later date. They silently gauge your level of emotional dependency. If you require their validation to feel beautiful or worthy, they instantly detect that desperate hunger. They notice when you seek their approval in the dark, and it absolutely thrills them. Your insecurity is their ultimate aphrodisiac, providing the sickening rush of power they fundamentally need to survive their own emptiness. It is never about shared pleasure, it is exclusively about absolute psychological dominance. When they withhold affection or suddenly demand compliance, they are testing the tensile strength of your self-worth. They notice exactly how quickly you will abandon your own comfort to satisfy their sudden, shifting demands. Your willingness to break your own rules is their ultimate dark victory. Today, we are completely ripping the velvet curtain away from this deeply unsettling reality. We are going to expose the exact, hidden metrics the narcissist is secretly tracking while you believe you are merely sharing love. Prepare yourself for a brutal, unvarnished look into the terrifying mechanics of a deeply pathological mind that weaponizes the absolute purest forms of human trust. Are you ready to confront the haunting reality of what was truly happening in those deeply private moments? It is time to step out of the dense, romantic fog of their manipulation and look at the cold, clinical truth of their predatory behavior. Let us begin the deep dive into the disturbing, secret observations the narcissist was making while you were completely blinded by their illusion. The deeply broken psychology of the narcissist demands constant, external stabilization. They lack a solid internal core, meaning their entire sense of existence relies on conquering others. Intimacy is merely the battlefield where they secure this vital stabilization. They secretly notice if your absolute focus is entirely on them, confirming their desperate need to be worshipped as a god. They meticulously track your willingness to take the blame for any awkwardness or discomfort. If the connection falters, they watch silently to see if you immediately internalize the fault. Your quick apologies and frantic efforts to fix the unfixable moment provide them with a massive surge of twisted superiority. They notice that you will instantly carry the heavy burden of their flaws. Behind their intense, captivating eyes lies a terrifying, emotional wasteland. They secretly notice your authentic emotional depth and feel a sudden, violent wave of pathological envy. They despise the fact that you can feel genuine connection while they are condemned to a life of numb, robotic mimicry. They study your profound warmth just so they can learn how to convincingly fake it later. They observe how easily you forgive their microaggressions behind closed doors. The subtle put-downs disguised as jokes, the sudden coldness, the brief flashes of inexplicable contempt. They notice whether you challenge their disrespect or quietly swallow the pain to maintain the peace. Your silent endurance is the exact green light they need to relentlessly escalate their psychological abuse. The abuser is hyper-aware of your physical and emotional exhaustion. They secretly track how much energy you continue to pour into them, even when you are entirely depleted. Your willingness to run on empty just to ensure their fleeting satisfaction is a vital metric of their absolute control over your mind. They notice that your boundaries dissolve entirely when they demand your attention. They carefully monitor your reaction to their sudden, jarring emotional withdrawal. Right after a moment of intense closeness, they will abruptly switch off, turning into a freezing wall of ice. They secretly notice the immediate panic rising in your chest. The desperate, pleading look in your eyes as you try to bridge the sudden chasm gives them a deeply intoxicating hit of supreme power. Every vulnerability you confess in the afterglow is instantly weaponized. They notice the exact tone of your voice when you share your deepest traumas, meticulously analyzing where your emotional armor is the thinnest. They are not offering you a safe harbor, they are quietly drawing a highly detailed map of your psychological triggers, preparing for the inevitable moment they will attack you. They secretly gauge your reaction to their future faking during these vulnerable times. When they whisper grand, empty promises of a beautiful life together, they are actively measuring your gullibility. They notice the desperate hope lighting up your face. Your blind willingness to believe their majestic lies over their terrible, inconsistent actions proves they own your reality completely. The narcissist secretly notes your capacity for shame. They introduce subtle, degrading elements into the dynamic, carefully watching to see if you will compromise your core values to keep them invested. They notice the exact moment your dignity breaks under the immense pressure of their demands. Stripping away your self-respect is the ultimate, triumphant conquest for their hollow, dark soul. Their internal chaos requires an external scapegoat. In those deeply private moments, they are silently auditing your absolute usefulness. Are you still a highly compliant source of primary supply, or are you beginning to ask too many difficult questions? They notice the very first signs of your awakening intuition, and it triggers a profound, paranoid fear within their heavily guarded, fake ego. The dramatic shift in this dark dynamic occurs the exact moment you finally stop performing. One day, you simply stop over-apologizing for their fabricated dissatisfactions. You stop seeking their cold validation in the dark. The narcissist secretly notices this subtle, sudden drop in your desperate emotional output. The terrifying realization that they are losing their grip hits them violently. When you establish a firm, unyielding physical or emotional boundary, their internal alarm system deafeningly triggers. They notice that your eyes are no longer filled with blind, submissive adoration, but rather a chilling, objective clarity. This sudden lack of compliance is an absolute, catastrophic threat to their fragile dominance. They realize the hypnotic spell is rapidly breaking apart. Their reaction to your newfound strength is a swift, deeply disturbing escalation of manipulative tactics. They may attempt to suddenly manufacture intense passion, frantically trying to hoover you back into the comfortable fog of submission. They secretly notice if this desperate performance works. When you respond with total, emotional flatness, their psychological panic becomes absolutely severe. They try to weaponize your past insecurities, the very ones you confided in them during moments of profound trust. They subtly bring up your flaws, expecting to see the familiar crumble of your self-esteem. But they secretly notice your absolute indifference to their cruel, calculated jabs. The psychological poison they injected simply does not work anymore. You have become completely immune. This undeniable failure of control triggers a profound, agonizing narcissistic injury. The realization that they can no longer dictate your worth behind closed doors shatters their protective grandiosity. They secretly notice that you see the terrified, empty child hiding beneath the arrogant predator mask. The absolute exposure of their core deficiency forces them into a frantic, erratic retreat. As you reclaim your bodily and emotional autonomy, the dynamic shifts from covert abuse to overt, desperate psychological warfare. They notice your newfound refusal to carry the heavy weight of their dark, twisted projections. You stop attempting to heal their bottomless void. This refusal starves them of the chaotic, negative emotional supply they desperately need to maintain their false reality. The narcissist realizes their secret laboratory has been completely compromised. The subject is no longer willingly participating in the cruel experiment. They notice the profound, unshakable peace radiating from you, a peace they cannot ever possess or destroy. Your silent strength becomes a blinding, terrifying mirror reflecting their absolute, pathetic insignificance directly back at them. Their attempts to regain dominance become shockingly clumsy and transparently pathetic. They may turn completely cold, aggressively withholding intimacy in a desperate bid to punish your independence. But they secretly notice that you absolutely do not care. You do not chase them. You do not beg for their attention. Your total willingness to walk away from their toxic table is their fatal wound. The abuser is violently forced to confront the harsh reality that their most powerful weapon, the illusion of an exclusive, profound romantic bond, has completely failed. They secretly notice that you have fundamentally outgrown them. The profound energy transfer has forcefully reversed. You are successfully taking your radiant power back, leaving them entirely bankrupt, hollow, and fiercely starving. The twist is finally revealed. The very environment they meticulously designed to break you became the exact crucible of your ultimate awakening. They pushed an empath's boundaries to the absolute limit, entirely unaware that a fully awakened empath is the ultimate, unbreakable weapon against a fragile false self. The secret observations they weaponized are now the exact catalyst for their ruin. The psychological collapse of the narcissist enters its darkest, most chaotic phase. As they absolutely realize you are no longer their reliable source of deep emotional supply, their entire mental framework shatters. They frantically search for a new, compliant target to fill the agonizing void. But they carry the heavy, rotting energy of their profound failure into every single new interaction. They secretly notice the glaring inadequacy of their new, superficial sources of supply. No one else can offer the profound, deep-water emotional reservoir that you generously provided. They are attempting to quench a raging, psychological fire with tiny drops of dirty water. This severe, sudden malnourishment triggers a frantic, utterly unhinged state of internal panic and rapid decomposition. The people they attempt to manipulate next will quickly notice their deeply unsettling, desperate hunger. The narcissist's aura shifts drastically from charismatic and magnetic to profoundly toxic and violently draining. They cannot hide the chaotic, unhealed trauma radiating from their hollow core. They realize, with absolute horror, that they are becoming universally repulsive to healthy people. They experience a total, horrifying fragmentation of their false self. The meticulously crafted mask completely shatters into millions of unrecoverable, jagged pieces. What remains underneath is a terrified, emotionally stunted, feral infant. The arrogant confidence is violently replaced by a crippling, deeply paranoid anxiety. They are acutely aware they have absolutely no tools to cope with reality. The silence of their lonely reality becomes a personalized, inescapable torture chamber. They are haunted by the stark memory of the profound connection they deliberately destroyed. They secretly notice that the pain is not about losing you as a person, but about losing the vital fuel you provided. Every single failure echoes relentlessly in the hollow, dark corridors of their utterly broken mind. They may swing violently into highly dangerous, fatalistic escapism, attempting to aggressively numb the agonizing reality of their total failure. But the shallow encounters and the reckless behavior simply do not work anymore. The internal, gaping void has grown far too massive, far too demanding, to ever be filled by such cheap, temporary thrills. They are drowning in their own absolute darkness. Notice their complete, devastating lack of genuine internal peace. A true empath, even in the deepest pain, can eventually find profound moments of pure stillness and quiet grace. The collapsed narcissist will absolutely never know this comfort. Their internal mental landscape is a perpetually burning, toxic wasteland. They are forever condemned to live out their days in a state of low-grade terror. There is a profound, undeniable justice in this horrific collapse. It is a terrifying, absolute testament to the universal, unbreakable law of emotional physics. You cannot constantly consume and exploit the brilliant light of others without eventually burning your own soul completely alive. The massive emotional debt they accumulated by violating your deep trust has finally come due in full measure. They are entirely forced to witness you moving on. Even from afar, the undeniable glow of your genuine, hard-won healing deeply penetrates their dark isolation. Seeing the empath beautifully thrive without them is the final, crushing blow to their entire, pathetic delusion. It undeniably proves that they were the absolute sickness in the dynamic, and you were always the ultimate, brilliant cure. The sudden, absolute death of the narcissistic ego is a chilling spectacle of total self-destruction. They meticulously laid the cruel traps in the dark, entirely unaware they were locking themselves permanently inside their own burning psychological prison. The brutal, covert destruction they intended for your pure spirit became the exact, unavoidable blueprint for their own spectacular, sudden ruin. You must absolutely, firmly stop carrying the heavy burden of their inevitable, tragic destruction. The profound vulnerability you offered was a sacred, beautiful gift, even if it was maliciously weaponized against you. Do not waste a single, precious drop of pity on the collapsing, miserable abuser. Their breakdown is the natural consequence of a life lived entirely through psychological theft. Recognize the absolute, unshakable truth right now: you did not break them. You simply, bravely stopped allowing them to completely break you. By establishing your ironclad boundaries and closing the door on their toxic access, you merely allowed their own deeply poisonous nature to finally consume them. Their complete demise is entirely their own doing. You are perfectly, entirely innocent. Your essential journey right now is about intense, unapologetic, and fierce emotional reclamation. Every single agonizing tear you shed in the dark was watering the vital seeds of your ultimate, unbreakable psychological armor. The pain was horrific, but it forged a magnificent version of you that is completely impervious to dark manipulation. You survived the war, and you emerged fully victorious. The narcissist's tragic, sudden psychological death is your absolute, undeniable liberation. As their false, fragile reality violently crumbles to ash, your authentic, beautiful life is finally allowed to spectacularly blossom. The heavy, suffocating, toxic fog they placed over your brilliant mind is lifting permanently. You are stepping back into the light, completely reclaiming your immense power. Do not look back at the horrifying wreckage they have become. The collapsing, desperate narcissist wants absolutely nothing more than to violently drag you down into the dark abyss with them. Let them completely thrash in the absolute dark. Let them drown in the terrifying silence of their own empty souls. Your only job now is to fiercely protect your guarded energy like a seasoned, victorious warrior. This profound knowledge is your ultimate, impenetrable shield. By deeply understanding the pathetic, incredibly fragile nature of their secret observations, you entirely strip them of all their remaining, phantom power. They are not powerful, evil masterminds. They are deeply broken, severely flawed entities spiraling toward an inevitable, tragic end. You see them clearly now, without the illusion. Your incredible, beautiful survival is the greatest, most profound rebellion against their severe abuse. They wanted you permanently destroyed, completely silenced, and totally dependent on their false love. By fiercely choosing to heal, by daring to thrive brilliantly, you completely annihilate their entire sinister purpose. Your genuine happiness is a radical, incredibly powerful act of defiance. The toxic connection is permanently, utterly severed. You are absolutely no longer their emotional, psychological laboratory. You are a sovereign, magnificent entity, glowing with a renewed, untouchable, brilliant light. The deep scars you carry are not marks of shameful weakness. They are profound, beautiful battle wounds that signify your incredible resilience. You refuse to let the dark swallow you. As the narcissist rapidly fades into total, miserable obscurity, rotting away in the horrifying prison of their own shattered mind, you are just beautifully beginning to rise. The contrast is deeply poetic and absolutely, perfectly just. The pure empath safely ascends into a spectacular life of authentic joy, while the abuser is left to choke on the bitter ashes of their own incredibly destructive lies. You survived the absolute psychological slaughter. You bravely unmasked the terrifying monster, forcefully starved the desperate parasite, and watched the grand illusion burn entirely to the ground. They utterly broke themselves trying to maliciously break you. Your brilliant light remains untouched, forever out of their dark reach. Walk forward into your absolute freedom, knowing the game is finally over.